Let's welcome in the Powerhouse panel on this Wednesday morning. We've got attorney, Republican strategist, and Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore joining us this morning. Political analyst Mark Halperin is here, and Christopher Arps is with us as well in sunny downtown St. Louis. Good morning to all.
Terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
Erin, what do you make of this shift we've seen over the last 5 months? And I guess you can include the campaign as well, from equality, which I think is something that we can all get behind, to equity.
Well, the biggest thing that's gone is common sense. Every time there's a problem, all this administration does is try to throw money at it. And it's money that we don't have. And then we see inflation, and then we see the devaluation of our currency. And we end up in a situation like Venezuela. I know it's a slippery slope, and that's just what they're doing here. Every single thing, like you said, is about sort of racial justice, as opposed to addressing problems that exist in individuality and sort of owning what you've done wrong. You know, whether you're white, black, of any sort of descent, you have to be the best version of yourself. Work hard as an American. Why aren't we talking about that mentality anymore? It's sort of like, well, if you commit a crime, it must be somebody else's fault. Personal responsibility should come back. Common sense legislation should come back. Not throwing money at problems and creating jobs naturally should come back. And right now, all we're seeing is just sort of glad handing and virtue signaling.
Chris, I'm curious, as a black man, I'm curious what you thought of Joe Biden's appearance yesterday in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
That and to commemorate the victims, but I think this equity, but using that to try to spend more money to enslave African Americans to government largesse is just not the answer, in my opinion.
Yeah, Erin, had you learned about this before in school?
I had not. I had to do some independent research as well, and I'm glad that I at least had this opportunity to learn about it.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute tragic event. But Chris, you know, anytime that Joe Biden was elected to the Senate, 1972. All right, so this is somebody that's been in the establishment for a long time, and I always...
Millions of white Americans belong to the Klan, and they weren't even embarrassed by it.
I want to move on to the quickly, Mark. By the way, do you think? Go ahead.
Hey, Rob, I would have a lot more respect for the president's speech if he would have mentioned that the Democratic Party are the ones who started the Klan, and the Democratic Party are the ones who filibustered civil rights bills in the 60s.
Joe Biden, I mean, he was part of many people that eulogized Robert Byrd, who I believe was a grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. He was also, people don't talk about this, Senator Robert Byrd, he was part of recruiting for the Ku Klux Klan, and later in life he disavowed that, but all of a sudden we forget that sort of foggy history.
What about the fact that under Bill Clinton's crime bill, which Joe Biden was the biggest advocate of, more African-American men were incarcerated than any president in the history of our great country. So how does he justify that? So Democrats can literally live their life in politics doing and saying whatever they want, and then they can just flip a switch and all of a sudden be social justice warriors, and it is lauded and praised and supported and revered. Yet if a Republican does that, nope, they have a long history of white supremacy. It's really a twisted, sad state of affairs in this country, and I think that people really need to be looking into the past of Joe Biden and the things that he supported.
So, Mark,
and one of them was not gay marriage, by the way.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, Erin. Mark, just to put a bow on this, Joe Biden wants to spend billions on racial equity and closing what he calls the racial wealth gap in this country. Do you think this money, do you think a measure like this actually moves through the House and Senate?
Right now, I don't think it has a chance to move primarily because of opposition from a handful of senators, a handful of Democratic House members.
Was that his best yesterday?
I thought he was pretty good.
Is that his best? That's his best?
I thought he was pretty good. I think we're still waiting to see his best.
The only part I liked is when he offered the little girls in the beginning ice cream. He said, we got to make sure these kids get ice cream after the speech.
Don't kidnappers do that?
I think they do, but Joe Biden, I know, he lost a daughter when he was just elected to the Senate, so I know he's very sensitive to that. That was why that's the first soundbite I chose to play today. All right, Venus Williams yesterday finally reacted to the Naomi Osaka situation. She's that young woman, #1 female tennis player in the world, withdrew from the French Open. She was fined $15,000. Wimbledon starts at the end of this month. I think June 28th is the date. Let's take a listen to Venus Williams, then we'll get some reaction.
For me personally, how I deal with it was that I know every single person asking me a question can't play as well as I can.
Okay, we've got about a minute left. I want to get everybody in. Erin, we'll start with you. Isn't it better, and I've thought about this over the last day, it was fresh yesterday, but isn't it better to have Naomi Osaka playing and not talking to the media versus talking to the media and not playing?
Well, all I know is that was very Trumpy what we just heard.
Yeah.
So I think she's taking a play
Right.
from the Trump book right there. But you
Yeah.
know what? If you're not in the tennis world and you didn't know who she was, like I didn't, this put her on the map. So whatever she's doing right in terms of a public relations standpoint.
Mark, what if politicians decided to do something like this? That would devastate our careers. For the top of the hour.
He wrote it for you, Rob.
I know. He dedicated it to me. I actually wrote the forward. All right, let's bring in Rachel. We'll see you guys again in a little bit. Looking forward to that. Rachel's got to look at some other stories. This Wednesday morning, we've got attorney, Republican strategist, and Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore with us. Political analyst Mark Halperin is here, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps is joining us as well. Good morning to all. I've got some very good news here, Mark Halperin, in case you had any questions about what Kamala Harris, our vice president, eats for breakfast. Take a listen.
Like I, again, tell a lot of people I mentor, I eat no for breakfast.
Interview on MSNBC with a new thing that Forbes is now doing. Kamala Harris also featured on the cover. The top 50 women in the country over 50 years old. And I thought the line was good because Kamala Harris has said no to a lot. She has said no to going to the border. Today marks 70 days. She hasn't held a press conference on the border. She hasn't gone to the border. And I'm starting to notice a pattern when it comes to our vice president. Do you think that she is not taking policy positions on these big issues, like the border, for example, because she doesn't want to be on the record when it is time for her to become president, whether that's between now and 2024 or in 2024?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Rob. And basically, as you know, I've said on the show before, I have friends in Secret Service that have said August is when they're going to start transitioning Joe Biden out and transitioning Kamala in. So that is coming up pretty quickly here. Now, I don't have this as fact, but I have this on sort of insider political fodder. But having said that, eating no for breakfast, it's certainly not intermittent fasting, but she should really start having some accountability. But to your point, I think she's preferring to sit back, relax, wait, let Joe be responsible for all of these bad decisions and sort of come in with her cape whenever the time is right and sort of be the first female president here to save the day. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Erin, let me just make sure I got that right there. So you have a friend in the Secret Service who has told you that they are expecting President Joe Biden to step aside, to resign, to step down by, it's June right now. You said by August?
They expect a transition starting in August. So that's when the things are going to start moving in the places where Kamala takes over and Joe sort of takes a back seat. That's what I've heard. It is not fact-based. This is just opinion-based, but these people are on the inside. And when I've asked other insiders, they have confirmed that information.
Yeah, it's not fact-based until it actually happens. Mark, have you heard anything like that?
I haven't heard exactly that. And although I try not to bet on politics, Erin, I'll bet you $40 that doesn't happen.
Well, hold on. We got to clear up the
bet. I'm just here to tell you what I heard.
Hold on. We have to clear up the bet, though. It's not by August, but just that process would begin. I mean, quite frankly, I think it began in January. But you're saying the process could begin in August, and then it would take some time, and maybe that is something that happens.
We're going to start to see. I mean, listen, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just relaying information. This isn't about betting. This isn't about winning. This isn't about being correct. I'm just relaying the information that I was told by people who are around the president every day. And you know who else? I'm sorry to take up so much time here. I know people at La Diplomat restaurant in D.C., and the president was there this weekend, and they said he could barely get out his order. He mumbled, pancakes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here.
He was there Monday, I believe. Mark, quick reaction?
I just need the $40, Erin. I'm not trying to have a fight with you.
Yeah, no, we have to wait till August for that, Mark.
Look, I do think you look at the assignment she's being given and all these conversations she's been having unilateral with foreign leaders. It would be irresponsible for them not to prepare her.
Challenging question during that entire sit-down interview. You've got the vice president there. Like, stop being, be a journalist. Like, you don't have to. I know she's your friend, and you guys want to go to, garden parties together in Georgetown. But like, ask her. Say, listen, you haven't told the American people what your strategy is in the border. What is your strategy when it comes to the border? Like, not. And by the way, that's the world we live in, where that would qualify as a tough question.
These questions that are being asked of both the president and the vice president are either about food or fashion. If I want to talk about those things, I will talk about them with my girlfriends at a garden party.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear them from the vice president of the United States. Let's get some meat and some potatoes on these bones here.
Yeah. By the way,
let's talk about substantive issues.
Agree. Mark, go ahead. Grover Cleveland.
You know what she gets? You know what she gets off the buffet at the garden parties in Georgetown?
No, Mark, I don't.
A bunch of no's.
Oh, yeah, because she doesn't have breakfast. I wonder if she has lunch. She's going to be starving by the time lunch rolls around. But by the way, nothing against garden parties. I'm all for garden parties. $18. My question, Chris, we'll start with you. Is Dr. Fauci, who wrote this book, is he putting his mask on or taking it off?
That's a good question. This is a man who told us that we don't have to wear masks and we should wear masks. You should wear 2 or 3 masks.
Right now, Chris brought up a good point. We're learning more about Fauci's possible ties to the gain-of-function research in that Wuhan lab where this virus might have been born. We know that the money was given to the lab. Dr. Fauci says it was not for gain-of-function research, but I thought it was great during those Senate hearings. Senator Kennedy said, well, how do you know? Couldn't they have just lied to you and used it for gain-of-function? And he was like, I suppose so.
Right. We've seen Senator Kennedy and several others, Rand Paul, really holding his feet to the fire when no one else will, because everyone else just sees him as this anointed, great, all-knowing doctor, when I'm not even sure he's ever written a peer-reviewed medical journal article. All he is a career bureaucrat. And by the way, don't buy his book. Save yourself the money. This is the only book you need. The Constitution of the United States.
Ooh.
That's freedom,
Amen.
baby.
It's a page turner. Mark, final thought. By the way, I just think this is Fauci's attempt to stay in the spotlight. What do you think?
80 pages is a booklet, not a book. And I hope Erin doesn't give away the ending to that book she held up. But he's never been on a booklet tour before.
No, booklet tours are different. You don't get as much time for a booklet tour. All right,
A
panel.
pamphlet.
Yes, I think it is a pamphlet, technically. All right, we'll see you guys on the other side in just a minute. More to talk about this morning as well. We start with attorney, Republican strategist, Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore. Mark Halperin is here. He's not been there.
He has not been
Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps has been there. Chris, I used to work in Kansas City. I did it there many times. I know you're in St. Louis. Mark, why do you not like this, Mark? Tell me about that.
Do you know what I heard Rachel say right before the show started?
No.
She said, I can't believe it's almost Friday.
I did not say that.
I know. Did you say that?
I never said
Democrats are not in some crisis right now over crime or anything else. In a heavy Democratic district, they won overwhelmingly.
Yep. Go ahead. I just heard somebody. Chris?
Oh, sorry.
Erin?
I was sitting here and disagree. What I was going to say is here in Philadelphia, our district attorney, who is a George Soros-funded, extremely liberal, pro-criminal district attorney, was reelected with 63% of the vote.
Right.
So I don't think that crime is really an issue that Democrats have to necessarily worry about, because these candidates who have destroyed cities, who are harming states, who are advocating for defunding the police, that are watching people get murdered in their backyards, there's really no implications and there's really no problems, so to speak, so far. So I think that the Republicans really have to step up in these districts and start getting the word out about what's actually going on, because the votes aren't changing.
Yeah, I was curious. It's a border state, New Mexico. I mean, Albuquerque, let's be honest, it's the bluest part of that state by far. But it's a border state. The crisis is very real. It affects those 4 border states more than the other states, in a very real way. And I thought this might be, a sign of things to come. But the Democrats will pick up 1 seat in the House. They've got a little bit more to their majority now, 220 to 211. There are still 4 vacant seats that will be filled between now and 2022.
I think that what we're seeing now, as Joe Biden and the administration are essentially finishing the job.
That this administration, even with their narrow margins in Congress, can try to transform the country.
Erin, do you agree with that? I think that the Obama administration has been leapfrogged by the Biden administration as far as progressive policies go.
I think they've really taken it to the higher level here. But what's scary about that is he didn't talk about any of his real accomplishments, whether it's Benghazi or the Fast and the Furious or taking pallets of cash to Iran. Those are the things that Barack Obama is known for within the conservative circles. And by the way, he spoke of the Affordable Care Act. Everyone knows that there's nothing affordable about that horrible health care plan. He did absolutely nothing to advance the American people in 8 years other than raise their taxes and use the IRS as a weapon. Honestly, this has become a progressive agenda that's totally leapfrogged Barack Obama. And now we're just almost on a train that can't be stopped unless we do something about things like the border and kids getting back in school and lowering taxes and dealing with inflation, because we have serious problems on our hands that Barack Obama, I don't think, even anticipated.
Mark Halperin, they're trying to pass a new voting law in Texas, and the spin, my friend, is already happening. Listen to former congressman, former presidential candidate, former Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke speaking about it.
The poll tax 100 years ago was somewhat innocuous sounding. The literacy test, the counting the number of jelly beans in a jar, but in every instance they were used to try to stop Black Texans and African Americans throughout the former Confederacy.
Top of the hour. Great stuff, as always. When we come back this morning on Wake Up America, Pennsylvania Congressman. To the Powerhouse panel this morning, we've got attorney, Republican strategist, and Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore here. Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps joining us as well. Erin, we'll start with you. What do you make of all this, particularly as it relates to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and this? You were on the show, Chris, Emerald. We were all together on the show talking about the lab leak theory. We weren't speculating. We were just saying, if this, you've got Mike Pompeo suggesting that it's real. You've got the president at that time, Donald Trump, saying that it's real. But no one wanted to pursue it. No one wanted to do their jobs and actually report the news.
This was all about Donald Trump. This was all about keeping the heat on then President Donald Trump. If we started pointing to China, then he wouldn't be the fault of every single thing that was going wrong. Now we have a media favorable Democrat in the White House, and they're going to say, hey, let's look to China. And that removes any culpability from Joe Biden or his administration. But the sadness of this is the American people were lambasted. Facebook accounts were shut down. Twitter accounts were shut down. The mainstream media was virtually silent, calling us all xenophobes or tinfoil hat crazies.
Right.
And when it turns out we are totally right. So hopefully, at least, if nothing else, the only silver lining here is that the American people will start to wake up and realize, hey, the mainstream media is not on my side. The mainstream media is not protecting me. Facebook, Twitter, these are not places that are friendly for us, that are just disseminating information. They are opinion outlets.
Yeah, and don't forget about Tom Cotton, by the way. He was raising those questions almost a year ago now.
To help these efforts and lead them among her many other responsibilities.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, because she's not doing anything now. I mean, not only can you say that she's been the vice president for 70 days and has not taken a press conference or tough questions, she hadn't taken a question during the campaign. They hid her away along with Joe Biden.
I completely agree. I think that Kamala Harris, what can she really say that she's accomplished or done? She's given a bunch of softball media interviews that have had absolutely no impact. Instead, she's just sort of digging herself this hole of lack of accountability, lack of opinion making, lack of discerning. And she's just waiting, I think, to take over the big role whenever we see that Joe is not fit. I know the mainstream media is saying he's looking towards a second term. We've seen him fall up the stairs of Air Force One.
He is not. He would be 87 years old if he were elected and served a full second term. I mean, I do not think that's going to happen. I've been wrong before. It could happen. But you said last hour that you've spoken to somebody in the Secret Service off the record who has said that they are sort of loosely preparing for a possible transition, not in August, but that process could begin in August. Tell us about that.
Right. So people that I know that are working on the inside have said that basically that Joe Biden is going to start transitioning his way out in August. That doesn't mean there's going to be a hard date of August 15th, for example. This is not written in the gospel. It's just what they've sort of been told and understanding in his cognitive health and what's going on. And that's why likely we see Kamala just sort of sitting back, not making any major calls,
right,
because they know that she is going to be the president sooner rather than later. And she doesn't want to have to be accountable for the bad decision making of the Biden White House.
Yeah.
So they say that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, just that there will be that transition that's going to be beginning in August. I think it will be relatively slow. We'll start to see maybe a hospital visit or a medical issue, something small, and just ultimately him peacefully bowing out.
I mean, that's good. I mean, you just broke news if that does end up happening. But that is fascinating stuff.
I'm not trying to break news. I'm just telling you the
No. And we here's the thing. She hasn't taken a hard stand on many big issues, possibly because she doesn't want to be held to account when it is her turn, if she does become president or decide to run in 2024 or 2028 or beyond that. Panel, we got to leave it there. Great having you on this morning, Erin, Chris. Good to see you. Look forward to having you back on soon.